Hello, this is Irene with SaugaTalks. Hello, everyone. If you've been following me regularly, welcome back. And if you have not been following me regularly, welcome anyways, because SaugaTalks is about business and tech talks with people who have a lot to say and who have a lot to share. And yeah, I'm happy today to have with me here Robin Farmanfarmaian. If I'm not butchering the name, Robin, I apologize, all right? Hello, Robin, welcome. Robin is a speaker. She's an international known author. She is an entrepreneur, she's an investor, so she's around tech and she's around thought leadership. I know Robin has a book coming up shortly. We have a lot to talk about today. We're gonna be about thought leadership. We'll talk about digital economy. We'll talk about how companies and individuals can benefit from the environment we're all in, and we're gonna touch a little bit on other interesting topics, which I'll keep a secret for now. Robin, welcome.
Thank you for having me. And you said my last name perfectly.
Oh, thank you. I was practicing. So I'm from Connecticut, those who know. So it's hot and humid in Connecticut. As always, we just had tornado last week, 7 days without power or internet. So all kinds of things happening. And Robin joining in from Palo Alto. How's Palo Alto this summer, Robin?
So far, so good, knock on wood. No locusts, no major earthquakes, no major fires yet, which is, our big problem out here. So fortunately, it's been calm.
Good, good. This is what we need sometime more than other times. So yeah, thanks again for joining. So what I wanted to talk about, and what I guess you're very knowledgeable about, is thought leadership. So in a lot of SaugaTalks, I talk about entrepreneurs, I talk with entrepreneurs, I talk with influencers and authors, and they share their approach, how many can benefit in this digital economy. Sort of, what our way as a professionals, as people, as individuals, what's new and what's actually going away, with this new lifestyle we're having. So, Robin, how do you find thought leadership, even topic and formula changing nowadays?
So, everything, of course, has gone virtual. And so it's about getting your name out there in the right way with the right content to reach the right audience for you.
Good. That sounds very simple. That sounds very easy to do. Right audience for you. And by you mean, I'm sure, a company and a brand, and it could be town, a state, it could be, right, many different entities. So talk to us a little bit. What's your understanding of this very simple formula, how to make it pragmatic and practical?
So it's actually, I broke it down into a formula. So my second book is called The Thought Leader Formula, Strategically Leverage Your Expertise to Drive Business and Career Goals. What that means is by becoming known for your area of expertise, i.e. a thought leader, you can open up doors that will help your business, drive marketing, drive potential employees to you, open up doors for funding like investors, be able to get on stages where you're going to have the right audience to be able to buy your product or your service. So it really helps your business, but inside of your career, it can help you dramatically. If you work in the corporate world, it gives you more negotiating power so that you can make more money and you can go back to your bosses and say, I am helping the company by driving, say, marketing or driving, more customers to us, and that is worth more money. And so you can get potential promotions or even raises. And in addition, if you are, say, in the world of entrepreneurship, that's what really lifts up your company, right? So your personal brand as a founder, as a CEO, or anyone who's at the really founding level of a company, your brand is what really lifts up the entire company. And so it's incredibly important whether you are in the corporate world or you are in the world of entrepreneurship.
Very fine points, Robin. Thank you for those. So I spoke with a lot of entrepreneurs here this year, okay? And we agreed on one point, is that in this economy, with these digital abilities and some skills, everyone can do anything. And another point I've heard, which is actually dear to my heart, that everyone can do anything. That means literally everyone. So how do you stand out in all this noise, in all this content, and all the messages out there? Some of them stick, some of them don't. So any advice there?
Sure, it all comes down to having a crystal clear and simple platform. And when I'm talking about a platform, I'm talking about your thought leadership platform from which everything else around your career and your content grows. So for example, take my healthcare thought leader platform. I called my book The Patient as CEO, How Technology Empowers the Healthcare Consumer. That sums up my entire platform. People know immediately when I'm talking about healthcare, I'm talking about technology and patients. Very crystal clear. Now that is based on a combination of my why combined with my fundamental truth. And this is what I call the thought leader formula. You started out as your why you do what you do, combined with your fundamental truth. What do you believe that the rest of the world either doesn't know yet or does not believe? And so, for example, with the patient as CEO, that is an incredibly foreign concept to most of the world. In fact, most of the United States. In healthcare, we've had a very paternalistic system. And when I give keynotes in places like Germany and Japan, their mouths drop open because in those countries, you're supposed to go to the doctor tells you what to do, you say thank you, and you walk away, and you do it. And what I'm here saying is that no, the patient's the boss, the doctors work for us, and it's our lives, so we're going to make all the decisions. And that is such a radical concept. So that's my fundamental truth. Patients are in control of their healthcare. Now, that combines with my why as being a chronic disease patient. Back when I was a teenager, I'd had a total of 43 hospitalizations, 6 major surgeries, and 3 organs removed. And so I took control of my healthcare, and it saved my life. And so that is my why I do what I do. I work on entrepreneurship, healthcare companies, really early stage startups, because of my background as being a chronic disease patient. My why combined with my fundamental truth. And so you need to think about, okay, why do you do what you do? And if you need a little bit of a primer, go ahead and Google Simon Sinek. Start with why. He has a fantastic TED Talk and book out there that will explain to you how to get your why into, that short little pithy thing like Apple does, right? And then think about your fundamental truth. We all have many. We all have probably 15 different fundamental truths, but you need to think of it as it relates to your why, to your overall platform, and to your actual goals of being a thought leader. And that's the second half of the platform, of the formula, is to really think about, okay, why am I doing this? Am I trying to reach new customers? Am I trying to reach people like my boss and all the C-suites of other corporations who might hire me at some point? Who is your audience? Why are you doing the actual thought leadership? And that will help you with the other half of the formula.
Sounds simple again, sounds simple again. So I will take me as an example, all right? I spent lots of years, 2 decades actually, right, in corporate world, and now on my own, and I'm building whatever I have the network, right? And I'm building the people who know me from my previous endeavors, but also reaching out to new friends and starting new talks like we're doing now with you. So in this complex world, like you said, right? We all have different truth and we all have different messages. So any advice, and again, by me, I mean as a singlepreneur, and I mean as a from startup to middle-sized company and to even larger companies, because larger companies also broke down to groups, to teams, to different tribes even, right? So it's the same thinking, I think will be helpful. So how do you think it's better to narrow down? To narrow down, because I know you have to go small before you go big. So what's your experience with that?
So you are completely right. You absolutely have to, first of all, define that small thing that you're doing in order to build that foundation. Let me give you an example. I worked at a company called HealthTap back in 2010. It's still out there. It's essentially in the telemedicine space. Our first vertical was new moms and pregnant women. That's it. That's like a 1.5 year period of a woman's life. Very specific, well-defined group. We were able to launch to them. So we knew exactly what our audience was, what they loved, what they didn't love. And so we could make that messaging tight and clear for that particular audience. And so, and then they went big. And, now they cover every disease out there. You can take those same kind of lessons from Silicon Valley. where we start small, we start in a tiny little vertical, very clear messaging and language, and then expand. I'll give you an example from, say, the patient as CEO. Now, you know, it's all about, patient empowerment and technology. But within that, I actually give keynotes on AI, robotics, sensors, 3D printing, connectivity in the IoT, virtual healthcare, point of care diagnostics, virtual reality, and drones. Oh, and tissue engineering. So like I literally have keynotes in each one of those verticals, but you're not going to think of that when you see my platform. You know it's going to be about technology and about patient empowerment. And that has not limited me. And that's the point I really want you to hit home. That has not limited me from giving keynotes on all of those other different subjects. Right? It's just having that clear foundational message out there so people can grasp what it is. And then the next step is to lay out your actual customer avatars. And what I mean by customer avatar is in the world of marketing, you define your audience, your perfect audience guest as, what age range, what sex are they? Maybe they're both male and female. Are they married? What is their college status? Do they go to graduate school? What part of the world do they live in? What's their socioeconomic status? Do they have children? Do they have, parents that they are taking care of? Anything you can find out about your perfect customer avatar, or you can imagine, you're defining your audience right there. So you know how to find where they are and how to hit them.
Sounds very simple again, very simple. But I guess, yeah, we all have these tools now where it's kind of easy to map what you're talking about, right? Because one thing to have it on your head, but one thing I've learned with years, in my working career is that, hey, you have to verbalize and you have to put your thoughts somewhere. So which tools help you to proceed with your journey?
In terms of actual work productivity type tools?
Yeah, because what you're talking about, you're basically talking about creating your targeted audience and to understand the customer needs and to kind of narrow down first, because big companies also have this kind of problems. I was, working for IBM for many years, and you think it will be easy to define, your marketing strategy and campaign for a company of this size and this presence. And no, everything's changing all the time. Marketplace is changing. New companies, new startup eating up your market like there's no tomorrow. So the whole thing is, where do you start small with tools, mind maps, customer maps? What do you see your clients are doing? That kind of, very tangible, pragmatic advice.
So I actually, from the Thought Leader Formula, and it's linked in there, but it's also on my website, robinff.com/spreadsheets. And I put together a 10-tab spreadsheet for people to use, download for free, and outline their customer avatar, outline the perfect conferences for them, outline the other thought leaders and speakers in that space who are their peers. And I really take you through the exact steps on how to map that up. And it's all done by a Google spreadsheet.
Oh, that's easy. So we'll definitely we'll link the link here in the description of this video. Absolutely. That's very helpful. So you created your own tool. I love it. Yes. Instead of going with some template from some other vendor. So fantastic. So with that, it looks like we're already talking about influencer marketing, because if somebody working on their own brand, on their own identity, small or big, we become influencers in whatever circle, right? So I read a lot about how important influencer marketing and influencers are now, although we cannot go to the events. So what's your finding later, let's say past few months, about those influencers, about yourself, speakers and experts like yourself? So how do you find working with clients and finding that good vibe, continuing collaborating?
Well, first off, influencers and thought leaders are definitely very different in terms of thought leaders are all about selling ideas and really getting people thinking, whereas influencers, it's a buy-sell relationship. Right, so they have a group of people that people then hire or companies then hire them to sell to, right? So that is a very specific marketplace and buyer-seller relationship, and that is always hot. The thought leaders is really about spreading ideas. And as a professional speaker, it was devastating for me that suddenly conferences were just canceled all over the world or sent virtually. And when I work with startups, I do the high level business development. And so that, again, with conferences gone, I don't have any of that networking in person, which is critical to what I do for a living on both sides. And so what I did is I wrote a new book and it's coming out this week. It's called Facilitating Virtual Events, Driving Participant Engagement and Interaction. And this was important to me because I realized I've been speaking at a lot of virtual events. I mean, a lot of them just, immediately just put me as a keynote on the virtual side. And I realized a lot of them were missing that very important customer or attendee interaction. Like I went to one that was a very expensive conference and they just presented a bunch of keynotes, short form keynotes, and then had maybe 5 minutes essentially, or 10 minutes of some type of networking where you got to be thrown into a room with one other person for 3 minutes. I was like, this is not worth my time, not worth my money. And so I said, all right, I'm just going to write the book on it because in my career, I have run over 200 events and now I've spoken at over 150 in addition. And so I have so much experience in that world that it just poured out of me and it was pretty easy for me to write because I had so many ideas around it.
Beautiful. So we'll absolutely link the new coming book, and when I'm posting these videos, is book it out. I'm happy to help out to again spread the wisdom out there. I'm sure I will benefit a lot, and my network, my friends, yes, my colleagues will do too. So you mentioned events. Yes, that was huge part. That was huge part of interaction for everyone back, in my IBM days. I was in charge of planning big events, creating curriculum, working with speakers, just kind of all this fun and this enthusiastic kind of dynamic environment is gone now. So before I read your book, okay, let me ask you this, right? How do you rebuild this kind of energy and this kind of human interest in each other? Because going like on speed dating at some of the virtual formats may not be the same. So how do you go about that?
So there are multiple tricks. First of all is my rule of virtual events, 60-40 content interaction. If you are not reserving at least 40% of the time of the event for some audience engagement, some kind of audience interaction, you may as well use Netflix, right? And so really building that in thoughtfully and not saying this is an afterthought. People don't go to conferences for the content. They do, it's a driver, and of course, content is king. It has to be relevant and good. But people actually go to those in-person events to be with other human beings, or else they just stay home and watch YouTube. And so bringing that in is so important. I talk about having maybe a physical swag bag, which is a really cool idea. So there's a company called the Custom Box Agency. My friend Mark Stern started it. And they do these beautiful actual boxes with like all the speakers glossy on the outside. Inside are the different swag items, including things that you can lift up while on video. So like say there's a little blackboard and you can say, yes or no, and you can, vote when you're on things. And because you're sending them this custom box that has a lot of different interactive tools, it brings the conference into that person's living room and physical space, right? So adding in that component is really fun and cool. There's lots you can do with it, from maybe you send everyone the same exact hat, right? And they wear the hat for, maybe the cocktail party, part of it. A lot of it comes down to, okay, really highlighting the participants. And this is something we don't do in the live, in the in-person event world. We highlight the speakers, period, end of story. I'm saying, okay, we'll go beyond that and start highlighting all the participants on social media. Or even putting things together. So you can have every participant record a 10-second video of themselves on their phone, saying their name, who they are, and what part of the world they live in. And then you edit that all together to create like a 3-minute video or a 4-minute video of 10-second attendees. You put that up, you put it all over social media. Everyone will share that, because even though they're only in the video for 10 seconds, that is enough to make everyone share it. So all of a sudden, you're turning this customer interaction where, people are just watching YouTube or Netflix into this thing where they're actually part of the event.
I was about to say, you know, this is a very unique approach. I haven't heard of it. So thank you. Thank you for sharing, because we want to be part of something. And these 10 seconds, yes, like you said, right? We're almost on stage with all these team speakers and with everyone out there. How smart.
Yep. You can also have on your website or whatever event management software you're using, like say you use the Whova app, WHOVA. It allows every participant to have their own web page, you know, with their bio and their photo. And you can start tweeting that out, right? So maybe every day you highlight 10 participants on social media. And I mean, it doesn't cost you anything, and it changes the equation for your attendees.
Definitely, definitely. Like from business standpoint, do you see company adapting virtual events fast? Because I'm also watching and I see some sporadic moves here and there, and some are less successful than others. So what do you see happening really? Mm-hmm.
I am seeing, of course, the beginning stages, you know, March, April, May, it was kind of shaky ground and people were just doing, you know, Netflix, essentially. Here's our content, enjoy. Now people are really trying to figure out how to build in that engagement, and instead of holding off, because a lot of people just said, okay, well, we're just gonna, you know, hold it at the end of the year. They're realizing this is more of a potential, you know, multi-year thing for the in-person events to actually go back up. So they're starting to hold it. And so I've got one coming up in November for 1,000 attendees. And so I'm working with them specifically on how to be able to engage 1,000 people virtually. And they're really putting a lot of thought into it. I'm finding that conferences are not saying that we just want to get content out there. They're really thinking about how to make it better for the actual attendees.
Got it. And how to help people to connect, right? The whole thing is about, right, getting to know a little more than you know, than came in than before, right? So no, that's fantastic. You know what? I wanted to ask you about events, because I was really liking events so much in my previous career in life that frankly I've seen different parts in terms of budgets. Okay, how is that going now? Because it used to be an expensive endeavor. In past few years, we heard that digital campaigns are a little more effective than live events, because they were very pricey. If you, right, you have to think about venue and what is it, infrastructure and drive in and all this, right? So from financial standpoint, how do you see it happening?
So it depends on what the event company is. So if you are a private event company that literally puts on events for money, and that's how you bring in your revenue, those events tend to be very expensive to put on. I used to run a conference for about 400 attendees that cost over $1 million over 3 days. Just the food cost alone was $300 per participant per day.
Yep.
Right. So like these spaces, the majority of an event's money goes to the hotel or the space, the food cost, massive. And really putting up the stage, the AV and the videoing is actually quite expensive. And so you take those three massive components off because you no longer need real AV, and to record virtual events is just a screen recording, right? That's super easy. You no longer need a $10,000 or $20,000, you know, AV team to actually run the videotaping. So that really helps. But then on the flip side, those kinds of events can't charge the prices they were charging, most likely. But there are ways to be able to do that. And so I mentioned a company called Genius Network in my book, and it's a mastermind type event where it costs $25,000 a year per participant to join this. It's a year-long program where they have multiple in-person events and then a year-long community. And they were so successful in changing their in-person event to a virtual event that they are getting new people buying, that they are running their normal events but done all virtually, and they are spectacular. And let me tell you why they're spectacular. And you know what, it's only done over Zoom too. It's not like they're using some kind of like cutting edge software. They are doing the whole thing over Zoom, and a lot of the time I'll join and there are maybe 100 other participants, and I'm telling you, it's fantastic. And the reason is because the founder, Joe Polish, in person engages the attendees. So when he does his in-person events, he says, hey, Robin Farmanfarmaian, she's a professional speaker and author, and this is why you will love her, right? And he's constantly pointing out attendees like that. He does the same thing virtually. You know, he welcomes attendees. He tells the other attendees about other people. He's constantly calling people out or putting them in the hot seat and spotlighting them. So he's one of those people that understands it's not about him, it's about everybody else. And he gives that to people. And because of that, and because of the fact that every single talk he does, he only does 10-minute talks, which is fantastic for a virtual audience, and then opens it up for discussion and Q&A. But he is providing in those 10-minute talks hardcore advice, actionable advice. This is not fluff, right? This is not inspirational content like a TEDx. TEDx's are fun because they're inspirational content, but there's no action items. When you go to Genius Network, he gives you exact, crystal clear action items that you can take to 10x your business. Because he's teaching people how to make money, he can charge that kind of money, and people will willingly pay that because they're going to make more money in their business than it costs to attend his virtual conference.
You know, I love this example. You know, companies keep innovating, even in the industry which we saw going down in front of our eyes, right? This is enormously inspirational, Robin. So thank you for sharing this example. I'll definitely also link the company in this video because it's amazing that, again, it's in tough spot. They're finding the way, they're growing, they're not closing their doors, they are growing. So this is amazing. Yep. Let me ask you this, you know, I hear that live streaming nowadays, okay, is a big deal too. And I think it's related to virtual events, don't you think? Do you have experience? Do you have clients, friends who are already in that world?
So, I mean, we are doing that, well, you're right, in the virtual event world, because live streaming is interesting because it happens in real time. So it gives people an incentive to watch it then and there because they are part of something that is happening right then and there. You know, part of the reason why people watch like live news as opposed to watching it 2 hours later on a rerun on YouTube, it's because they're part of it when it's happening. And so I'm giving a big keynote in November, that conference for 1,000 attendees, but because the attendees are all over the world, I'm actually going to give it twice in one day. So I'm going to give it in the morning to a live audience, and then assuming, you know, Europe is probably already in bed or Asia's in bed, and then I'm going to give it again that night for anyone who was asleep during my morning one. And it's the same audience, well, I mean, the same exact conference. The different people will be able to come in based in their time zone.
Fantastic, fantastic. Again, that's something new, right? It's new for you, it's new for the audience, it's new for your clients who hire speakers, right, like you. Amazing, amazing. You know, now I am enriched with new knowledge and new wisdom. Thank you, Robin, so very much. So this is SaugaTalks with Robin Farmanfarmaian. How do I pronounce the name?
Close enough. Yeah,
Farmanfarmaian. Yes. So we're gonna hope. I'm gonna hope that you'll come back again because you bake those books like hot potatoes. So absolutely, you know, with your experience and your passion and your interest in your client success, it's amazing that yeah, instead of wasting your life, you're writing books, you're sharing what you know. So best of success with new formats, with new ways to communicate with your clients, with your audience. I'm doing my thing over here. So absolutely, and thank you for taking part of SaugaTalks today. So to audience out there, Robin's contact information will be in these videos. I'm Irene with SaugaTalks. Thank you for joining and keep watching. Thank you. Thanks a lot.